Welcome, everyone. It's good to be back at the Martin Center for this January, it's not the 17th, January 24th meeting. I think I make that mistake a lot. I don't even know what day it is. I am Stephen Hammers, your president, and I'm happy to be your president. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to have an awesome day today. First, we have the invocation by Linus, the Pleasant Four-Way Test by Larry Kane, and Linus, all yours.
Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessing of this glorious day, the blessings of fellowship and of family. I'm grateful that we are able to be together and enjoy each other's company. Father, I know not all members of this club's extended family share my own faith tradition. I'm praying to you in a way that is familiar to me. As I pray, I ask that you translate my words in ways that will include all of us and make our shared intentions known such that we are drawn together more tightly. Father, I know many gathered here this afternoon are suffering silently with health or other personal issues. Please put your arms around those in need and help heal them. And Father, I pray that you help me and all gathered here to live up to the Rotary tradition of service above self. And it's in Christ's name that I pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, to the Republic which stands one nation under God, liberty and justice for all.
Now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First,
truth.
Second,
fair to all concerned.
Third,
chips.
And fourth,
fish for all concerned.
And Jim Villers.
And Jim Villers. All right, the introduction of our guest and visiting Rotarians by our club secretary, Jennifer Wayne.
Hello, isn't it nice to be home? Even though last week was fun, it's always nice to be home. We have a few guests today. Drew Cressman has a guest with her.
So this is my friend Dan Hagan, who is a founding member of the American Jazz Company, a little jazz group that plays around town. He's also migrated from the big state to the west of us, but back before the pandemic. So welcome, Dan.
We have our speaker today brought a guest as well. Do we want to wait and introduce both at speaker time? Or do you want to introduce? Is that good? It's speaker time? Okay. Okay. And then let's see, Michael Kaplan. There he is.
This is my guest, Janet Donahue. She will be running for city commissioner in May in Brentwood. And so she's been here before. Wonderful, wonderful person in the city. I don't want to get too political in here, but she's been the chair of the planning commission for a decade and had 3 sons graduate from Brentwood High, and they went to the University of Notre Dame. So we can talk about that later. But
and then I suppose I have 2 guests this week. We have Claudia. There's Claudia. So Claudia is with Morning Point, and we're so glad to have her. She has officially put in her proposal is going through the system. So we're looking forward to welcoming her into our club. And we have Mr. Ron Eichert that did his orientation today. So this is his last free lunch. That's what I told him. He put it off as long as he could. So welcome. And that's it. We don't. I don't think we have any. Oh, you have a guest. Okay. He did not make our list. Sorry about that. I even talked to you out front for a little while. Sorry.
Yeah, my good guest, my good buddy here, Dylan Williams. He builds homes and he has some free time. And we were having breakfast the other week, and he's like, wants to get back to the community. I was like, well, I'm in the Rotary Club, and it's a pretty cool club. So he wanted to come today and check it out. So I told him to come along. So welcome, Dylan. Glad to have you, buddy.
Okay, did I get everybody now? Awesome. Thanks for coming.
All right, Jason, time for Happy Bucks. Make us happy.
Can you hear me? All right. Put my dollar in. I'll start off. I'm happy to say that I've been presented the opportunity to find 4 to 6 people that want to go to the Masters. I've got 4 badges with a private residence. So if you're interested in that, I have more details. Just contact me after the club or email me, and I can get you in touch with those people that handle that. But pretty cool opportunity. So
I'm very happy today because my friend Hope Hines is here, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he's going to say. I'm also very happy because Janet Donahue, if she'll stand, is the chair of our planning commission. And she's decided to set her feet into much deeper, colder waters and run for city commission. She has 3 things that are vital for a city commissioner. She's very intelligent. She also has common sense, and she has great integrity. I'm getting my petition signed, and many of you have already signed it. If you will give her a moment after the meeting to stop and sign her petition, I'm sure she will greatly appreciate it. And I will give my wholehearted endorsement for Janet running for city commission. Thank you.
anybody else?
I was just going to follow up on what Ray said. Janet and I have known each other a long time. We've served on a lot of different things around Brentwood and spent a lot of time together. She is a wonderful servant. She is very intelligent, and she will be a great commissioner. So she's got at least 2 votes right here.
Thank you, Larry. Hurry.
I signed Janet's petition this morning. And now that I know that, I think I'll give my money to her rather than, what's that other guy?
Enough to go around, right?
Count me as another vote for Janet. And think of it like this. It's the 5th vote on the Supreme Court to bring us from darkness into light.
Anybody? Zach. I wonder what Zach's going to talk about. Well, we'll go Julie first.
Sorry, I don't have a dollar. I just want to let you guys know, most of you all in this room know my husband Todd. He is works for he's always done HR his whole life, and he is in between jobs. So if anybody knows of anyone that's looking for an HR director or knows someone that is, please reach out and let me know. I'd really graciously appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. OH.
IO. Yes, that's exactly what I'm happy for. Monday was a phenomenal day. But I'm definitely happy for the Buckeyes winning and not going through just 1, but 2 SEC teams. So that was phenomenal. My second dollar, I put $2 in, but my second dollar in is I was really happy for the fact that both teams the entire year really, and especially throughout the playoffs, like continued to honor Jesus every time they ever did anything. And I think that, yeah, exactly. That's like round of applause. I think that was phenomenal. And another thing that really put the Buckeyes on the map this year was that they had a revival and 50,000 people were there and led by the football team. And then also 5,000 people got baptized. So, and you know, as a person that like, I don't know if you know anything about the Ohio State fan base, we're kind of nuts. And no pun intended, but thank you. And but to see that was just really, that was awesome to realize that there's more important things than just football. So that's why I'm happy.
All right.
I'm dropping $20 in. My father had triple bypass surgery Saturday, and he's coming home today. All is well.
Awesome.
My good buddy Rodney Lund is here with us today. Please say hello to him when you get a chance. I know it's been a while. That's about it. Oh, and Curry wife had a birthday yesterday. So you get a chance to wish her a happy birthday.
All right, anybody else? Going once, going twice? No? All right, that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. A couple of announcements. In case you cannot see up there, our Little Harpeth River cleanup was canceled for tomorrow due to sub-freezing temperatures tomorrow morning. But I do want to thank Patrick and Banks and Jennifer and all those who helped out. There's a lot of work getting all that ready. And then, hey, it happens. And we have canceled in the past, but looking forward to next year. But thank you very much, Patrick. Really appreciate that. Jared Tanksley, come up for a few minutes.
All right. We haven't been here in a while. We've got the award to give away for Rotarian of the Year, the Bob Billington Award, which is, I'm honored to be a recipient of that last year. I'm giving the award out this year. As you know, we had the award normally at the anniversary banquet in December. Our winner was not there, wasn't present, and we haven't had a meeting here since December. So I wanted to bring up Steve Passen, who is recipient of this year's award. As you know, this award is voted on by past winners. So it's a true honor to be Rotarian of the Year. The good news is you get to keep this plaque for a year until you pass it on. Awesome. Congratulations, Steve.
Hey, Steve, thank you for everything you've done for Rotary. Really appreciate that. All right. Now to get to the good stuff, which is why we're here. I want to introduce first Jim Bonds. I met Jim Bonds years ago. He probably didn't remember me. But I remember the day I met him. I went home to my wife and said, I met James Bond today, which is why he goes by Jim now. But Jim and I are in a Bible study at Brentwood Baptist. He's been in the broadcasting industry for a long time. But Jim is going to introduce Hope Hines for us.
I'll keep this brief because I know you're here to hear Hope. When Roger Greenup told me about a January 24th date a long time ago being open, he said, can you give me some help? Maybe get some sports guys in. Would you like to? I said, look, I've already told the Rotarians all of my stories and they're all antique by now, but I got a guy who might come in. I said, his name is Hope Hines. And Roger said, get him. So I had to go online and research Hope to find out something about him. I'm kidding. Hope and I go back to 1975. Hard to admit, we were very young at that time, though, on the SEC Skyriders tour, where we visited every SEC campus over a 8-day period. Wow. And I think we can probably make that a visit in the future because most of the statute of limitations have expired, thankfully. But, there are only a few in each market. Now, that is local guys who are tasked with the effort of covering local sports news and features, et cetera. And that's really good to have such a small community because we do know each other, not really competitors, they're brethren, even though we work for different TV stations. And we could even share stories. One of the most famous stories, not a story happened too often, is when the sports director or editor is sitting in his office. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. We've already got all of 3.5 minutes of sports news ready to go on the air, scripted, and someone comes down the hall. Hey guys, this is news producer. They've got flurries in Memphis now. That front is coming through, so I need a minute of your time. Seriously? We only had 3.5, but news made that call. Years later, I don't know why, but weather is the thing that moves the needle in ratings. But as sportscasters, we didn't appreciate it too much. Hope Hines has been around a long time, and his book is a great read. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's called Hindsight, no play on words there. 40 years of ups and downs and rebounds of local sports broadcasting. And it's a great book. You know, to stay 40 years in any job, but especially an on-camera position, takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a hard shell of resilience. It also takes talent. And Hope is blessed with all three of those. And we're happy to have him here today. A fairly recent member of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, former WTVF News Channel 5 sports director, Hope Hines.
Golly, it's great to be here. I've been anticipating coming here and visiting with all of you good Rotarians. Now, you got to know that I spoke to the Franklin Rotary Club last year. They said, look, if you ever go over there, you'll be a drop now. I don't know about that or not, but I'm just throwing it out there for whatever it's worth. They had a good group. They're the ones that do the rodeo, right? Yeah. What do you guys do? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. You know, I know a little something about the speaker itinerary here, and I do know that the first person that Jim looked for, or whoever was looking for the speaker, I guess it was you, Jim, you know, he decided that, you know, let me find someone that's one of the most respected and highly publicized men in the state. And he had that guy, but he turned him down. And then Jim couldn't quit there, so he said, well, let me see, I need to find somebody that has been in a lot of places in this country and has done a lot of things and had an outstanding career. And he was turned down by that guy as well. Well, he's in a bind now. But he says, I'm not going to lower the standards. As a matter of fact, I'm going to raise the standards. Now I'm going to go find somebody that has all of the attributes of the first two, but someone that can intrigue an audience, keep them spellbound by stories of intrigue and mystery. Well, I wasn't going to turn him down 3 times in a row. So here I am. And you ain't paying me nothing. Maybe, did you take up a collection? Was that what that was about when you guys was going around there? Now, before I really get into the meat of this thing, and you probably are thinking I'm going to talk a lot about sports. I'm not. I did 40 years of that. I'm going to talk to you about my faith. I'm going to talk to you about and intertwine with that some sports people, some sports personalities. But I think that's what the Lord wants us to hear and talk about today. So I want to say this to you first of all before I get into that I saw this survey the other day that was taken about, and this time of the year, my gosh, are we tired of surveys? Well, just guess what? They're still coming, and they will until Trump's gone and the next guy comes in or whoever's there. So surveys are taken every day, and you can either believe them or not. So this survey was sent out across the country, and it asked just one simple question: do you believe in miracles? How about you guys? Well, the survey came back. 50% of the country said, yes, we do. The other 50% were Vanderbilt fans. Now, don't think that they don't have some things going on in Tennessee up there, because they do. Tennessee's not all it's cracked up to be. For instance, do you know who's in here? Who's a Tennessee fan? I don't want everybody raise your hand. Well, pretty good crop. You guys know John Blue? No, you don't know John Blue. John Blue happens to be Tennessee's #1 fan. Every year he takes his family to the beach. And so this particular Saturday morning, he's sitting out on the veranda looking at the ocean, opens up the newspaper. There's a half-page spread there that says, weekend crew, $100. Man, he knows the deal when he sees it. He rushes down to the agent's office, walks in there. He's got a crisp $100 bill. Throws it on top of the table and said, I'd like to have that weekend cruise. He said, yes, sir, I have one left. He reaches under the table, pulls out a baseball bat, hits him in the head, and throws him out in the ocean. Now, John Blue's floating out. 30 minutes later, who comes in behind him? An Alabama fan. Now, he wants that same cruise, but he doesn't have 100. They don't do hundreds in Alabama. They do 20s. So he's got $20 bills, and he puts it up there, and the guy takes it. And he says, okay, reaches up under his veranda there and takes a baseball bat, knocks him in the head, throws him out in the ocean as well. So we get the picture. Here's John Blue floating out to sea, the Alabama fan floating out to sea. Alabama fan says to old John Blue, hey, buddy, do they serve breakfast on this cruise? John Blue thought for a minute and said, they didn't last year. So they got their problems in Tennessee as well, too. Not everybody is what they appear to be. You know, I didn't grow up. You're going to find this a little bit interesting. I did not grow up necessarily a sports fan, and I didn't have any sports heroes. Why was that? Well, I was born in a little bitty spot in South Georgia that was less than 4,000 people. I didn't see a college football game until I went to Florida State. Florida State's an hour and a half from Quitman, Georgia, which is right there on the Florida line, right outside of Valdosta. If you go south, you go down 75, you go through Valdosta. You either stop there or you don't. Jim, would you hand me that bottle of water? So I didn't grow up idolizing athletes. I did play sports. I played football, ran track, baseball, but they weren't my heroes. My heroes were those guys and gals on Saturday afternoon at the picture show. The actors and the actresses were who I grew up with. That's what I wanted to be. As a matter of fact, when I graduated from high school, I had been accepted to the Pasadena Playhouse and to the New York Academy of Dramatic Arts, but I didn't go. I had a problem. I was invited to a military wedding. Back there, you call it a shotgun wedding. And so my life took a turn. I married my high school sweetheart, and we began life. Well, I decided at some point I needed to probably get a college education if I was going to amount to something. So I decided to go to the, let's hear it now, the University of Georgia. Oh, come on. I am a dog. Proud of it, too. We just gave everybody else a little chance this year. Ohio State. I saw the guy in here with the silly shoes on. Where is he? Where's that guy? Stand up and show everybody that shoe that you wear. Yeah, just take them off. Look at there. Look what he's got on there. Oh my God. I hate to ask you about your underwear, but we won't go there. No, I don't want to know about that. So anyway, I went to the University of Georgia and I started working at a radio station there. Met a good friend of mine for life by the name of Louis Grizzard. Anybody remember Louis Grizzard? What a great writer he was. He was a writer for the Athens Banner Herald. I was doing sports for the local radio station, doing Athens High School football, baseball, basketball. So he and I traveled together he did the color for me. I did the play-by-play. And we had a great time together. He just left us way, way too soon in 1994. What a great guy he was. But you know, I want to talk to you today about some heroes of mine. There were some heroes of athletes and they had great faith. One of those guys was a guy by the name of Paul Jenkins. Paul Jenkins was even when I was going to school, there was a running back at South Carolina. Now, how he got out of Georgia, we don't know. David Allen, I don't know if any of you UT people remember David Allen. He played for Tennessee, but he also was in Athens, Georgia. When I was there, and I called all of his games. So not every kid will stay in his hometown because the thing is he wants to get out of his hometown and find publicity somewhere else. So that's kind of what the two did. So Paul had gone to South Carolina. His father was a crop duster. Does anybody know what a crop duster is? All right. So he had learned to fly at an early age, probably before he could drive a car. So on this particular afternoon, he was out in late August before he went to camp in the fall, and he was spraying the fertilizer, and he turned around to look behind him to make sure it was all being evenly done. He lingered a little bit too long, and when he turned back around, his front wheels caught in the power lines and pine trees, and he flipped end over end. The airplane, which is an open cockpit, fell on top of him. He said the fuselage burst. He had gasoline all over him, and he could, before he even felt the pain, he heard the cartilage in his nose and his ears burning. Now, guys, this is horrible, but listen, let me tell you the story. So he said, I don't know how I did it, but I beat the side of that airplane out. And he said, I was on fire, and I just rolled on the ground to get the fire out, and then started walking deliriously. Finally got to a road, fell out in the middle of the road, and he was knocked out. Finally, an old man came along in a pickup truck and put him in that truck, took him to the local hospital. They had no idea what to do with him, of course, right? They take him to Emory in Atlanta. Nothing they could do for him at Emory. And so they decided we will have to fly him to the Houston Burn Center, one of the greatest in the world. At 30,000 feet, Paul Jenkins said, I'm in such excruciating pain, I couldn't hardly think, because, you know, they can't doctor you very much except put salve on you wherever you've been burned. He says, at 30,000 feet, I heard the doctor say to whoever was standing by, this man will not be alive by the time we get to Houston. And Paul said, you know, Hope, and I became real good friends with him because he was a golfer. I'll tell you about that in a minute. He said, you know, he said, I said to myself, Lord, I don't know you. I've been to church all my life, but I really don't know you. If you will let me live, I'll give my life to you for the rest of my life. Well, he did live. Plane landed. He went to the hospital. He was in and out of hospitals for the next 3 years, over 20 plastic surgery operations, burned over 67% of his body. But he said, Hope, he says, you know what? He says, I know I'm good looking. Every time I walk down the street, everybody turns and looks at me. See, what God did for him was not on the outside. What God did for him was change him on the inside, which is where we all are changed. God doesn't change us from the outside. If you get ready to say yes to Jesus Christ, it's not going to be an outside experience. It's going to be an inside experience. And that's what it's all about. Paul Jenkins, to this day, a friend of mine, he was burned so badly, folks, that's about as far as he could grip. He had his golf clubs built up, George. How about that? And he was a 10 handicapper. See, I'm telling you, you can do what you want to do when your heart is right. When you know what you want out of life, you just somehow take it and go with it. Sherman Smith, Jim, you remember Sherman? Anybody here know Coach Sherman Smith? Coach for the Titans. This is a story that we all need to know and hear. A good friend, a man of deep, deep faith. And so I covered the Titans. You were gone, right? I mean, okay. So I covered the Titans from the get-go, from the time they moved here from Houston, and got to know Sherman. Sherman was a great athlete in college at the University at Miami, Ohio. And so he had gone there, and now he was coaching. But Sherman's story is quite dark in a number of areas. Sherman, as I say, coached at Miami of Ohio, and he was very good at what he did. His next move was on into the NFL, and then after that, other things began to happen in his life. But there was a young man by the name of DeLand McCullough. Anybody here ever heard of DeLand McCullough? He played for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a pretty good running back. He was recruited by Sherman Smith at Miami of Ohio, and he signed with him. And they became outstanding friends. They became really, really good friends. He said to all of his players that he recruited, you may not be looking for a father, but I'm going to be your daddy every time you put your foot on this football field, and I'm going to expect you to do exactly what I say, when I say, how I say it, and you're going to be accountable to me. You're going to learn this lesson right here. What a great lesson for any of us to learn. And so he and DeLand became very, very good friends. Well, he left and went off. DeLand graduated, went on into the NFL with Kansas City and a couple of other teams. But there was something missing about DeLand. You see, DeLand didn't know who his father was. DeLand hardly knew his mother. He was adopted, and his adopted mother never knew who his real mother was. Year after year after year, DeLand would go back and try to research records, but in those days, the records were closed. You couldn't find out who your parents were. Many years later, that all of a sudden in 2017, that door opened in the state where things were a lot looser. So he went and he found out who his mother was. He went to her, and she couldn't believe that that was her son. He couldn't believe that that was his mother. And began talking to her about his father. And at first he said, no. He said, look, you owe me this. I need to know who my father is. She said, okay. Your father's name is Sherman Smith. And he said, oh my gosh. He was thrilled. He and Sherman were already like father and son. They just didn't know about each other in that regard. The phone call that Sherman Smith received from DeLand that afternoon would change his world, shake his life, and turn him upside down. He got on the phone and DeLand told him, he says, you are my father. Sherman says, wow, what are you talking about? I'm your father? He says, yes. He said, my mother's name was so and so and so and so. Sherman said, oh my gosh, now I know. He said, I was with her one night, and he said, I knew nothing about this child. But it didn't matter to either one. They met together a week later, and the reunion was the stuff that movies are made about. And a movie was made about this life, this story, called Show Me the Father by the Irwin brothers. Sherman Smith, his wife, he was scared to death. He already had 3 children. He said, what am I going to say to my wife? You know what her answer was? Looks like our family has expanded. How many of us would have done that? How many of you ladies could have done that and accepted the fact that this happened way back in another time? It's called forgiveness. It's part of what we do, part of what we should do. It's part of the peace that we get when we do forgive. So Sherman Smith is a great friend. He is a sold-out Christian, and he and DeLand travel quite a bit, going across the country, speaking to people just like this group or churches or whatever it may be, to talk about how their lives were this way, now they're this way, with Jesus Christ right in the middle. I want to take this a little bit further, go a little bit darker, about a friend of mine here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm going to change his name, and I'm going to call him John. But he played for Vanderbilt football. Good player. Played linebacker. Had a company in Goodlettsville. I don't name the company. Some of you may know him. And I had a television production company back in this day, and this was 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago. So I had a partner, and the station had allowed me to do this. So I was doing some videos for different people about their companies, and that was back in the day when cassettes, and so you can understand that. It was just kind of a side job. So we'd gone up past Goodlettsville to talk to a potential client. On the way back, I missed the highway to get on to get back up on the expressway to go back through Nashville. I missed it. We were talking, just like you do sometimes, and the road came up and I missed it. So I said to my partner, I said, let's just go see John. I hadn't visited with him in a while. And he said, I said, yeah, come on, we need to go. I just feel like we need to go. So I go over there, and he has normally 15, 20 people in his office. Opened the front door, walked in, the receptionist was not there. There was nobody in the building, 2 or 3 people way back in the back. But I knew where John's office was, so I said, follow me, come on. We go back. The door was cracked. I opened it like this, And here's John sitting at his desk, just like this. And when I walked in, he gets up and he said, "Wow, what are you doing here, Hope?" I didn't say I missed the turn off. I just said, "Hey, I'm in the area and we'd like to go have lunch. How about lunch?" "No, I really don't feel like it today." I said, "Oh, come on, John, let's go. You need to get out of here." Stuff, it was in the summer. Okay, so we go to Shoney's in Goodlettsville. We're sitting there talking. I look at him and he hadn't said 3 words. I said, "John, what's the deal?" He said, "Man," he said, "I got problems. I got a lot of problems. And 1 or 2 of them are financial. I got a problem at home." And he said, my world is caving in." And I said, "Hold it right there." So why don't we just pray? We prayed right there. And when I got done with the prayer and looked up, he had a slight smile on his face. So we go back, we say our goodbyes. He goes back to his office. I go back to Channel 5. At about 9:30 that night, the phone rings. Jim, we don't normally answer phones at 9:30 at night as we're getting ready to go on air at 10 o'clock. For some reason, I took it, picked it up. He said, "Hope, this is John." I said, "John, how are you?" I said, "Great lunch today." He said, "Better than you know." And I said, "Well, tell me more." He said, "Well, when I left the house this morning, my wife said, 'You want a cup of coffee for the road?' And I said, 'Yeah, because it's going to be my final cup of coffee.' And what you didn't see, Hope, when you opened that door and walked in, was that my drawer was open, my hand was on a handgun, and I was getting ready to end it all right there. I had to sit down. But look what God did. God didn't intend for me to be on the right road to come back to Nashville. He intended for me to miss that. He intended for me to be. This is not about hope. This is about the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ interceding in 2 people's lives and bringing them together at the point at which he had planned from way back in eternity. That's what Christ can do, ladies and gentlemen. When you give your life to him, he can work through you in ways that you will never, ever even know or understand. Heroes. We all have heroes. I want to show you another hero. This is going to be on video. So where is my videographer? So, sir, if you would roll the videotape, take a look at this.
Did it all today. Completing passes, running with.
Where's the screen? Am I on the way? Oh, here.
Today, completing passes, running with the football. How would you describe the determination they can play with, especially when Notre Dame was threatening?
I mean, you got to give all the credit in the world to those guys, man. They fought their tails off. We knew they were going to. We knew they were going to come back and give us a fight, man. But, you know, first and foremost, I got to give the glory and the praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, man. I wouldn't be here without him. I wouldn't be here without my teammates, without my family, without everyone that bet on me back in Downtown, Pennsylvania, man. I'm at a loss for words, man.
Speaking of your teammates, Quinshon Judkins with 3 touchdowns, Jeremiah Smith with game-clinching explosive play. How was your offense in control on that?
Yeah, I think we did an unbelievable job on 3rd down and winning the situations. And, you know, we talk about all the time we have to be the hardest knee playing team in the country, and we got to execute. We got 39 champions. And I think we did a good job when it came down to it, executing and get our job done.
Team based out just over. How did you use that adversity to elevate yourselves, make yourselves really up for this game?
It made us come together, and it really challenged us, man. Like we were in a rough spot, and I just got to give all the credit to the guys in that locker room, man, for coming together and not letting that separate us, but letting it make us come closer. And I really don't think we'd be here if it wasn't for some of the adversity that we faced this year, and it makes it that much sweeter.
You came to Ohio State to do something special. Now you're walking off this field a champion. How has this group and Coach Ryan Day changed your life?
I don't have words, man. They've changed my life in more ways than I can say, man. And Coach Day and these guys here completely changed my life. And I just, Coach Trust said it when he talked to us, but I can't believe God gave me the chance to be a Buckeye. There's nothing like it. Thank you so much.
Did it all today. Completing passes, running with the football. How would you describe the
That's about Ohio State.
Especially
That's about Will Howard, about his association with Jesus Christ. And there are young men and young women all across this country doing the same thing after games, before games, and at halftime. That's the future of our country right there, with a Savior like Jesus Christ. We need more people with more commitment, with stronger faith, not only in our children's and grandchildren's lives, but in our lives as well. I will open it up for some questions here in just a moment. I have a final hero for you. And I'm going to read this to you because it's better read than me speaking it. So I'm inviting you to listen, not only with your ears, but listen with your heart. A nurse took the tired, anxious soldier to the bedside. "Your son is here," she said to the old man. She had to repeat the words several times before his eyes began to open. Heavily sedated because of the pain from a heart attack he'd experienced the day before, he dimly saw the young uniformed U.S. Army soldier standing next to the oxygen tent. He reached out his hand. The soldier wrapped his war-toughened fingers around the old man's limp fingers, squeezing a message of love and encouragement. The nurse brought a chair in so the soldier could sit closer to the bedside. And although all through the night, the young soldier sat there in the poorly lit ward, holding the old man's hand and offering him words of love and strength. Occasionally, the nurse suggested the soldier move away and rest a while. Each time he refused. Now and then she heard the soldier offering him a few gentle and kind words. The dying man said nothing, continuing to hold tightly to his son all through the night. Just as dawn broke, the old man passed away. The soldier released his hand he'd been holding all through the night and slowly leaned back in the chair and took a deep breath. Shortly after that, the nurse returned. She quickly assessed the situation. She began to offer words of sympathy and encouragement, but the soldier interrupted her. "Who was that man?" Startled, she answered, "That was your father." "No, he was not my father," the soldier replied. "I never saw him in my life." She stared at him in unbelief. "Then why didn't you say something when I first took you to him?" The soldier slowly eased himself up from the chair and said, "There had been a mistake, but I also knew he needed a son, and his son wasn't there." As I realized he was too sick to tell whether or not I was his son, I also understood how much he needed me, and I stayed. The young soldier continued, "I came here to find a Mr. William Gray. His son was killed in Iraq yesterday, and I was sent here to inform him." He turned his head again, looking down at the old man's lifeless body. "What was this gentleman's name?" the soldier asked. With tears in her eyes, she answered, "Mr. William Gray." The message of this story is simple. The next time someone needs you or me, please stay. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. John 15:13. It's a gripping story, isn't it? But it's one we need to hear at least once a month. So those are my heroes. People like them. I have athletes who I covered. Jim, you had athletes who you covered that were, we tried not to let ourselves be a hero, be a fan, but you couldn't help it sometimes. There were coaches the same way, there were coaches the other way that weren't so kind and gentle with you all the time. But so that's how we have to navigate life, isn't it? Even in our own families. We have problems, we have disagreements, we have times that we're just not really thrilled with each other. But we have to find a way to surf through it. And the only way to do it with peace and joy and hope and love is a man named Jesus Christ. So that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. And if you have any questions, now, if I can't answer it, Jim can. How about that? Because I can tell you after 40 years, I don't pay as close attention today as I did 40 years ago. You know why? Because I don't have to. So if you got a question about anything I've said, or if you've got a question about sports, between Jim and I and the two of us, we'll answer it. And if you don't, that's fine. Who? Anybody?
Show you had on John Merritt. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people know the legend of John Merritt. So if you can just talk about briefly his accomplishments and what he did.
How many people in here remember John Merritt? A lot of people. All right. Former head football coach at Tennessee State University back in the day. Now, when I came here, it was 1971. And they had begun winning national championships before that. Well, I did John's Sunday morning television show. It was the highest rated show in the state. Not because of me, because of John Merritt. All I had to do was ask one or two questions and a half hour was gone by. Not only that, but he would sit down, pull out that stogie, stick it in his mouth, light it. I'd already asked him a question, but I got to wait for the answer till he goes through the normal ceremony here. So he lights that thing and starts talking. In a few minutes, the camera will roll back and there's a cloud of gray smoke circling around. He looked like he had a crown on of gray smoke, didn't he, guys? That was John Merritt. You know what? And I said back then, it wasn't the time, and it wouldn't have happened, but he could have run for governor. He could have run for mayor of Nashville, right? You agree? He could have won. But he had that kind of person. Great story about John. Now that I'd forgotten about this in a while. He called me, and I did his TV show, so we got to be real good friends. So he called me one afternoon about 3 o'clock and says, "Hey, baby." He called everybody baby. He said, "I want you to come over to my house tonight and have supper." I said, "Okay, John." But I said, "Now you've got to be back in time to do the 10 o'clock news." He said, "Oh, we'll have you back." What time? I said, "I can't get there till 6:30 because we get off there at 6. That was back in the old day. We didn't do an hour news then. So I go to his house and the yard is full of cars. I get there and I thought, what in the world is going on here? I walk inside and before I see anything, I hear his voice. He's holding court. And I walk up there and there he is talking and I look at somebody and I said, whoa, wait a minute. That's Coach Eddie Robinson of Grambling. Coaches don't get together on the night before they play football, do they? They do at John Merritt's house. His whole coaching staff together, both coaching staffs were there. So now it's time to eat and here's a plate. Now the room had a, shall I say, a foul smell to it. But there was the smorgasbord. He said, "Hey, baby," he said, "I want you to taste it first." I said, "John, what is it?" He said, "It's called chitlins." I said, "Coach, I think I'll pass." He said, "No, you won't today. You're going to eat me a mouthful. I'm going to stand here and watch you." I didn't eat any more after that. I'm sorry. Now, here's another story about John. He called me another day and said, "Hey, baby," said, "I want you to go recruiting with me." Well, I thought, yeah, what's this going to be about, John? He said, "No, you just leave it up to me." So we go and he had to have his Cadillac washed his Cadillac down and we go. And we go to this player's house and he's sitting there in the living room talking to his parents. He's already made the sale. The mother loves him. So he gets up. Now here's how he's going to impress the young man. He had stopped by the bank on the way there and had a $100 bill and got $100 in ones. Had a big rubber band packed around. He said, Hope, he said, I think we need to go get something to eat. Let me see how much money I got. He rolled that thing up, boy's eyes got that big, and he signed right there. That's now, here's why, I forgot this one more. This was during the time when everybody was recruiting Herschel Walker. John Merritt had an idea that he could get Herschel. He had a lot going. He talked to Herschel. Herschel liked him, all that sort of thing. So he got his driver. His driver's name was Shorty. They go to Wrightsville, Georgia, where Herschel was. He's driving out in the country, and he said, hey, turn right here. That's his house way up yonder. They're getting about halfway to the house. He says, hey, Shorty, stop, turn around. He said, what you doing, coach? You hadn't even got there. He said, you see that red convertible? Georgia's already got him. So that was John Merritt. Okay, that's all my John Merritt stories.
How has?
Don't ask me a tough question now.
Very easy question. How has sports broadcasting changed back a long time ago when you started today?
I don't know. I've been out of it 13 years. But Jim might want to tone in on this. I think when I answer that question, I have to talk about what's happening generally in television. Television probably won't be here another 10 years. Probably going to be out, gone. It's all going to be on that little phone you got right there, and whatever else they come up with. And with AI coming out now and the things they do with that, I don't know what it's going to look like. I think the people that are in it right now are dinosaurs. They're going to be fading out. I don't know. I really don't know what it's going to be like. But Jim was right. It's like I tell people when I come to speak, I said, we got 3 minutes. Today, folks, I'm going long. If I get an opportunity like this, I'm going to talk a lot. But I don't know. Sportscasting as it is to the stations that are still doing it right is still okay. You're talking about the teams and what's happening to them, and you get to travel on the road if your station is, if your station is got enough money and want to do that sort of thing. So that part of it is still deal. And I argue with people all the time. I know that there's a lot of lies out there, both politically and every other way. But you know what? Back when I was there, Jim, I think so too. If I'm breaking a story, I had to have 2 people confirm what I was about to put on the air. And that's just the way it was. So I couldn't lie. And I never did. And the people I worked with didn't. And the people that I know now that are down there, they don't lie. Now, a lot of people say, I don't watch local television anymore. It's too many lie. Well, okay. That's your perception. See, television is a perception anyway. This is like when I had people that I watched on television too. I either liked them or didn't like them, but it's the perception of who they are and what kind of person you think they are. Unless you know them, you don't know. Jim, I think you want to home in on that.
Ironically, Hope, I was asked a few months ago by a college professor who I knew, local college. She said this student is writing a paper on how much sports has changed and the elements of influenced it, both on TV and overall in general. I had to write down my thoughts, and I got my neighbor who's an former ESPN producer to do the same. I think that the net of all of this is when Hope and I and Charlie Mack, Hope and I have all talked about this. We got the great pleasure of being paid to do something we would have done anyway, watch TV and talk about sports, but we also worked in that golden age. Coach, President Trump talks about the golden age. Well, when we were doing it in our younger days, that was the heyday of sports because none of you had this in your pocket. You couldn't sign on the internet and see how the Cubs did that afternoon. You had to drive home and hopefully get in front of your set to listen to Walter Cronkite or the local sports guy tell you what happened in sports that day. And because of that, everyone has as much access to information as we had at that time of the TV station. So the local sports guy has to be different. It has to be local, to be pertinent. He can't give scores anymore because ESPN does an hour of that.
So how many people are in here? Are there 50 or 60? Every one of you is a reporter. If you got a phone, you're a reporter. If you want to be, and you come up on something that's happening that's bad, not right, and you film it, you can take it down to all TV stations, and you know what? It's good stuff. I mean, the quality of what you're shooting is good. You see a lot of tape. It's not called tape anymore. See, I'm way out. Are you standing up because my time's up now? Is that what you're doing? Huh? Is that my cue? Listen, unless somebody else has got another question, I'll step away. Anybody? All right. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
I hope on behalf of our Rotary Club, we want to give you a Rotary pen. And I'll ask you to sign because we read to elementary students the book. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I want to thank all the guests for coming. We also had two guests that weren't introduced in the beginning. Banks, you have a guest, Dylan, is that right? Oh, you already introduced him. Okay, missed it. And Daniel came in late. Daniel is from the Franklin AM Rotary Club. So please welcome him on your way out. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Don't forget to time to put up the tables and chairs again. So we hadn't done that in a while. And stack in stacks of 8, but don't put them against the walls. So if there's nothing else for Good at Rotary, we are adjourned. Y'all have a good weekend.